Consciousness in its purity, meaning prior experience, prior the identification with thought, feeling, or body sensation. Consciousness in its ultimate rest or meditation is formless. It's the knowing of anything that appears, yet this formless, pure awareness remains undifferentiated or non-identified. But this consciousness, although the ground of all being to phenomena, it itself is the first manifestation of Brahman, or the first manifestation of the absolute. And it's interesting here because it's here that the absolute can be known by that pure awareness. But in knowing the absolute, you can't take your mind with you. You can't take your emotional, possessive nature with you, or your physical. There's nothing there for your physical reality. It's a place that you can only get to through meditation itself. And meditation itself is that pure awareness, that pure consciousness. And of course, meditation has been hijacked by the mind, so that there are methods and ways to meditate, but ultimately meditation is simply remaining as the abiding I am, or the consciousness. And it's as that one detaches from the mind, for instance, as a means of definition, or as a means of, or as a method, detaches from the mind as a method. And instead of seeking methodology through the mind, awareness just simply abides in itself and kind of rests in itself. And it's in that self that consciousness comes to know the self, which is the absolute reality, the very substratum of even the first manifestation as consciousness. And when that's known, when the unknowable is known by the unknowing nature of abiding consciousness, because it is unknowing. It doesn't, as I said before, it doesn't take the mind or the heart into that equation of knowing the innermost of all reality. That can only be found within the consciousness itself, when awareness itself can collapse within itself and know the self. That's just how it is. Yeah, that's awareness going within itself. It doesn't need definition or a guide. It just needs an abiding and a deepening. Um, it's just a formless body of reality that needs to rest within itself so that it comes to know the self. And it's here that something really interesting happens, and that is the absolute and the first manifestation, which is consciousness, they become one. So it's not like there's an absolute and there's just the pure consciousness. Is, because of course, conceptually speaking, I can describe that. But in reality, when awareness awakens to its central nature, it sees it is it and of it. It's like when Christ said, "I'm in the Father, and the Father is in me." And in, I don't know if it's in the Upanishads or if it's in the Gitas, one of them anyway, where it says, the Atman looks into itself and it sees it is Brahman. Same thing. They become one. And of course, this in fact is what is self-realization. This is self-realization. The self uh, that is absolute, They become one because the knowing of it is it and of it. There's no there's no the old relationship of reality falls away. That old subject object relating falls away. Whereas awareness, you use the mind to try and work this out. It's like when you try and do this through the mind, through self-knowledge, personal knowledge, you can't escape being the subject to that process. And the subject to that process is just a thought. It's a thought of you thinking your way through. And that's subject object relating. That in itself is duality. That itself is the illusion. That itself cannot in any way fall through awareness and come to know the self. Only awareness through non-attachment can do that. Collapse into itself and know it is the self. That's the interesting thing. And, in that sense, this is not a conceptual means of practice or a conceptual means of um, understanding. Knowing itself is consciousness going within itself, coming to know it is the self. It's a complete surrender. It's a complete going within without someone going within. So, you're going beyond person-centered and just as awareness falling through um, as is without any guide really. It's just awareness leaning into itself, comes to know it is the self. And for years you've been used to like leaning into the mind for information, leaning into one's emotional heart, your emotional possessiveness as a means of understanding. Or but this requires something different. This requires a true heart, a sacred heart, one that is not attached to anything you see, just a heart of awareness, a root source awareness that can go within itself and know it is the self. That's just how it is.